How are you feeling?
Well,
How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you here?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
is the end. There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the there's no place to hide. I'm burning in the what have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the there's no place to hide. I'm burning in the sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under, if
streaming?
you're going to do it,
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah, please.
But Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
What up, everyone? What up? Happy Monday. Hey, breaking news. I'm actually starting to get better. Finally. I have had like some travel death plague for the past week and a half plus. I was sick almost my entire West Coast trip. And now at long last, I am finally, after a week and a half of almost solid sleep when I wasn't live on the internet, I am finally starting to feel better. I'm finally starting to feel like a functional human being again. My body isn't aching all the time. I'm not having all sorts of weird pains and stuff like that, and when oozing things out of my nose and my throat, all this stuff. I am finally starting to feel. It wasn't even Portland though. No, it wasn't even Portland. I started getting sick in San Francisco. It's probably Trendelin's fault. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't Trendelin's fault. Listen, Trendelin and I were traipsing around all sorts of anarchist things in San Francisco. I went into all sorts of fucking bookstores. I probably touched something in an anarchist bookstore that I shouldn't have touched, and it was what it was. And so I got sick in San Francisco. It really started manifesting in Seattle. And then by the time I got to Portland, my whole face and my neck and I was swollen. Like and then I had to fly back home on a plane. And it sucked. There is nothing worse. There is nothing worse than flying when you have a head cold, because when you fly, when you have a head cold, your ears get all clogged and then you can't hear anything after you get off the plane. And so I was walking around in these airports basically deaf. Yeah, I even had a mask on. It's true. I had a mask on in several far left locations and I still got sick. But we're finally on the mend. We're finally on the mend. I came home. I gave whatever I had to my husband. Victor started coughing like a day and a half after I got home. He's like, I'm getting sick. I'm like, oh no, honey, I'm very, very sorry. I brought that death plague back with me. But he seemed much better. I think it's because I was overexerting myself as well. Like literally almost every day that I was, well, actually not almost, every single day that I was traveling, I was running around trying to go to as many leftist things as possible. And you gotta understand, I am a sedentary creature right now. I sit my ass in a chair in my second bedroom and I read things and I research and I do videos on the internet. I make content. But usually I'm sitting my ass down. So all of a sudden I'm up and running around all these major cities all day, every day. And I have so I think I perpetuated it myself. But you know what? We're back. We're back. I'm not saying I'm not going to cough or anything during the show. I might still cough. I haven't even taken any Dayquil or anything today. But we're back. I'm starting to feel better. And we're back. And so because I'm starting to feel better, ain't nothing better to do than be an uppity bitch on the internet. When I was in Portland, we officially declared, or I should say, I officially declared, because I am the general of this army. I am the queen fascist bitch of this army. When I was in Portland, I officially declared that we are going to war with Andy No. Now, this war has been a long time coming. This is Comrade War 2. For people who missed Comrade War 1, that Comrade War 1 was against James Lindsay, because we figured out about 2 years ago, it was in the middle of 2023, we figured out about 2 years ago that James Lindsay had lost his fucking mind, that James Lindsay was misinforming the public and lying to the public about what the left was doing. And listen, man, I spend all day, every day researching the far left and monitoring the far left and trying to figure out ways to harness this data that we have and make it usable for people who are in decision-making positions. This is what I do all day, every day. And so I take personal offense when retard pundits and commentators and paid narrative shills on the internet are misinforming the public. This is something listen, I joke around a lot and we should joke on this channel and we should have fun. But in reality, I take what I do very, 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 very seriously. And it really pisses me off when people in a position to inform the public about what is going on, it really pisses me off when they lie to people. So about 2 years ago, we figured out that James Lindsay was lying to people. He was obfuscating real world evidence. He wasn't showing his audience the whole truth. He was covering up stuff that people actually did need to know. And he was doing it to shill a pre-approved narrative that his masters wanted him to sell. And we exposed that, and we exposed it over and over and over and over and over again. And we started just showing up in live streams where James was having live interviews on the internet. And we started asking James questions he didn't like. And James liked liked this so much that he started telling everyone I was a narcissist on the internet that was desperate to sleep with him. This was James Lindsay's intellectual answer to my intellectual critique of his work. He told everyone that I had been trying to sleep with him, which has never happened. I've never even flirted with James. I have been around James several times in person, never flirted with him, never made a kissy face, never invited him for drinks, never did nothing. So James just kept whining and complaining and kicking his heels. And by the way, breaking news. By the way, James Lindsay is doing a live interview with Adam King on Thursday. Adam King, who runs the Awesome Jew account on Twitter. Now, I keep telling you guys I have Jewish friends, and I do actually have Jewish friends, and I'm actually very friendly with Adam King. And so Adam King DM'd me this morning, and Adam King was like, Karlyn, guess what? James Lindsay's coming on my show live on Thursday. And I said, ooh, are you serious, Adam? And then I went into Adam Green's chat. Adam Green, not to be confused with Adam King. Adam Green is a Viking-looking gentleman who makes the argument that Jesus is a Jewish psyop, essentially. And so then once I found out that Adam King was live streaming with James Lindsay on Thursday, I went into Adam Green's chat and I was like, hey, Adam, guess what? James Lindsay is live streaming with Adam King on Thursday about his trip to Israel. And do you know what Adam Green said? Adam Green said, Karlyn, we should totally get together and watch that and stream it. And I said, yes, we should, Adam. So, on the topic of the war with James Lindsay, which we've already won the war with James Lindsay, by the way. We have already won. James is a psycho now. James has lost all of his speaking clients. James doesn't even talk about the left anymore. We drove James insane, and I take full credit for that. There were other people involved too. I think the Groybers helped out and stuff like that. But just in case you thought that we were going to leave James Lindsay alone forever, no, apparently Adam Green and I are trying to stream him live on Adam King's show on Thursday. And so that'll be a fun little activity for everyone. We haven't done a James Lindsay watch party in a long time because James Lindsay, this is going to come back to Andy, no, I promise. James Lindsay, hang on. I told you guys I was still sick. James Lindsay loves it when we show up in his live chats on his interviews and ask him questions. And isn't it convenient that Adam King and I are actually cool? And Adam said I could be in his chat on Thursday. And so if James doesn't like that we're going to watch his show live on Thursday with Adam King and we're going to be in the chat, then he needs to take it up with Adam King. And quite frankly, I think it would be, if James is upset about this, I think that would be rather anti-Semitic of James to question his Jewish host on his show. Why would James want the Jewish host on his show to censor his friends? I've always been cool with Adam King. I've never had an issue with him. I've been on Adam King's show before, rather. And so that's what we're going to do on Thursday, guys. That's going to be around 3 p.m. Eastern time. So it'll be a little pregame for our actual stream. But back to this. So we successfully defeated James Lindsay. It took a while because when I think about wars with people, I go to war with someone for the long term. I'm the Chinese water torture of the internet. This is my philosophy. I don't just hit you in the face and that's it. When I'm going to war with someone, I am the Chinese fucking water torture of the internet, where I just go drip, 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 drip. And you never know when the next drip is going to come. That's the key with Chinese water torture, is you're harnessed in some sort of cave and they put you right under a drip that lands on your head, but it lands on your head at like irregular intervals and you never know where the next drip of water is going to come. And that's why the Chinese water torture is effective. So this is a long-term war, Andy. You know, the thing is, I've known that Andy No is a narrative shill for a while. I have. The reason I've known that is because I have tried to talk to Andy in private on multiple occasions. And yes, I do have the receipts to back this up, should I ever need to show them. I have tried to communicate with Andy in private many, 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 many times. Not to advance my own work necessarily, although I certainly have done that. And every once in a while, Andy would tweet it out, and I was always grateful for that. But really, my purpose with communicating with Andy No in private was to give him information about what the left is doing so that he could tell his fucking audience something accurate. because I sure as shit knew that Andy wasn't doing real journalism. I knew he was no longer in the field. I knew he was having other people do his research for him. And Andy, quite frankly, was starting to shill a narrative about this Trantifa bullshit that I really don't like. The reason that I don't like Andy's Trantifa narrative is that Trantifa is not a real thing. Trantifa is something that Andy No made up because he wants to write a book about it and he's building a brand about it and all of this stuff. The problem is there is actually a violent, militant, queer arm of the left, and it is not called Trantifa. It's called Bashback. It actually has a proper name. Now, if you want to educate your audience about what's going on in the real world, you have to use the proper terminology. The reason that this is important is because I want people to be able to go and do their own research. I don't ever want any of you to have to trust me for anything. I always present receipts. I always present real world evidence. And I always want you, as a smart and capable person, to be able to go out into the real world and to do your own research. You cannot research these topics if you don't know the name of the organization, you don't know the name of the ideology, you don't know what to put into the search engine, you don't know what to put into ChatGPT. Trantifa is not real. It is a name that Andy made up. Bashback is a real thing. Queer Marxism is a real thing. The Mary Nardini gang is a real thing. All the gender abolitionism, the gender nihilism, that is a real thing. These are all things that you can look up, go onto leftist websites, see how they're using this language, see how they're talking about it. And I sent all of the information I had, or like a good bit of it, to Andy No to say, Andy, like, are you going to tell your audience that this is actually called Bashback? Are you going to tell your audience what this is all about? Are you going to tell your audience where all this stuff is coming from? And Andy didn't even bother to respond. And he just says, it's all Antifa. And then he continued to shill this Trantifa narrative. This was months and months and months and months and months and months and months ago. I have also talked to many independent journalists about Andy No behind the scenes. What I have heard from independent journalists, again, people who are not in a privileged position like Andy. Andy works for an organization. He takes a salary. He has all his stuff covered. He has all his expenses covered. He doesn't need to worry about nothing. There are a lot of independent journalists out there covering the far left that actually have to pay their own way. All right? So I've talked to a lot of those people. There is nothing that pisses me off more than when people like Andy steal from independent journalists without giving them credit. Because it is incredibly challenging to be an independent journalist, and you do not make a lot of money. I do not get rich covering socialism on the internet, guys. I really don't. And so what I've heard from more than one independent journalist is Andy has stolen their work without credit. Andy has thrown them under the bus. Andy has gatekept their information. I also heard from an independent journalist that Andy was having people who work for him, who do his research for him, DM everyone lying about me. So Andy is very intimidated by me because he knows I'm a better journalist than he is. He knows I have more evidence than he does. He knows all of this evidence is primary source evidence, so he can't intellectually argue it. And so instead of actually intellectually arguing that the quality of my work, what Andy did is have someone who works for him, because by the way, you guys know Andy doesn't do his own research, right? He has people working for him behind the scenes who do his research, and then he takes credit for it as the public face of it. He doesn't actually do any real journalism in the real world. So he had his people DMing people, smear campaigns, lying about me because he wants to discredit my work, because he wants to prevent people from looking at the real world evidence, because the real world evidence completely contradicts what Andy said. And then to top this all off, a week ago, Andy No shared a clip to his massive audience, basically that was clipped out of context to try to make me look crazy because he is running a smear campaign on me because he's pissed off that I'm calling him out publicly. Have I gotten beaten up for being a journalist? Yeah, I have. Yes, I have. On more than one occasion, I've been beat up by a Black Lives Matter mob. I actually got assaulted by a MAGA supporter a week ago. Have I been physically assaulted? I have. You fucking retard. You fucking retard. Do you know where you fucking are? Do you know? Listen, I'm going to get on my fucking high horse. Do you know I've gone undercover with Antifa about a dozen more times than Andy No ever has? Like, my work covering Antifa compared to Andy's, it's not even fucking close. I've gone undercover more than Andy has. I have infiltrated hundreds of online leftist events and trainings and secretly recorded them and put that out on the internet. I have put myself in these situations for multiple days at a time. I have done shit that Andy No would never do. And this is part of the point, because one of the things that Andy No does, and one of the things that Andy No's retard audience says, is Andy literally got physically hurt from covering Antifa. Do you know how many fucking people have gotten physically hurt covering Antifa? Not just me. Honey Badger Mom got physically hurt. She got physically assaulted. Katie Davis Court got physically hurt. She got physically assaulted. I know multiple independent journalists have been physically assaulted by Antifa, that they don't start whining on the internet about, I was hurt that one time. They go out and continue to do journalism. I have a great amount of respect for work that Andy has done in the past. I think his past work was good when he was actually being a journalist in the real world. I think that Andy No's book about Antifa is a great introduction. I will never take that away from him. But do you know what Andy has been doing since he wrote his book about Antifa? What was that, 4 or 5 fucking years ago now? Andy has been running around going, I got attacked by Antifa. 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 This is what he does in all of his interviews. Did he get attacked by Antifa? Yes, absolutely. Is he the only person that's ever been attacked by Antifa? Not on your fucking life. And most of the people who get physically attacked by Antifa continue to do journalism after they get physically attacked. What did Andy do after he got attacked by Antifa? He moved to London and stopped doing journalism. Oh, seems like Gary doesn't know where he is. Bye, Gary. Bye, Gary. You're not smart enough to be here. That's probably Poetry Painter, by the way. That's one of James Lindsay's little sycophants who created a fake account. Oh, looks like Andy No's retard audience is coming here. You know, guys, we have some experience with the MAGA retards coming into my chat, because they did it all throughout the war with James Lindsay, the war that we eventually won, and they're going to do it with Andy No as well. But unfortunately for the MAGA retards, I don't do what they do. The MAGA retards, when they're upset, they lie, they make shit up, they spread smear campaigns, they defame you, they re-about you all day, every day, they don't interact with real-world evidence at all. We don't fight that way on this channel. We don't fight that way. When I have an issue with someone, I tell the truth about that person, I show the receipts I have on that person, and I argue that person intellectually. And so that's what we're going to do today. This is going to be one of the first major shots in the war against Andy No. If he wants to lie about me on the internet, he wants to smear me on the internet, I'm not going to stoop to his retard level. I'm not going to lie about Andy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to what Andy says in his interviews, and I'm going to say, oh, wow, that's really interesting, but also not hinged into reality based on the real world evidence. Because that's what we do on this channel. We take the fucking high road. Now, I know that's cliche, but the fact of the matter is I am not going to behave irresponsibly. I'm not going to do what Andy and his friends do, which is misinform the public. We're going to listen to what Andy says, and then we are going to compare it to the real world evidence. And we are going to be watching today this interview that Andy did with American thought leaders from the Epoch Times a couple weeks ago. Andy No breaks down what's next for Antifa and the DOJ's strategy. Huh. Isn't that interesting? How does Andy know what's coming next for Antifa? Andy doesn't do real journalism anymore. So I'm going to be really interested to hear what Andy said in this. And I'm going to be really interested to see if he's actually talking about what Antifa is doing today. Or if Andy went into this interview and goes, I was attacked by Antifa and they were very mean to me and they did it to embarrass me. And I was physically assaulted by Antifa, and Antifa is bad because they attacked me. And Trantifa, and Soros and domestic terrorist organization and so that's what I'm suspecting we're going to hear. That's what I'm suspecting we're going to hear. We're going to hear yet another fucking sob story about Andy getting attacked by Antifa again, when there have been many independent journalists that have been attacked by Antifa and didn't spend the rest of their fucking careers running around crying about it on the internet for fucking clout. We're going to listen to what he has to say. And we're gonna talk about it. Oh, you watched like half of it? Oh, Chris says he watched half of this and it's extremely bad. That's kind of what I figured, honestly. But before we get into that, guys, special breaking news announcement. We have a spy stream today, ladies and gentlemen. We have a spy stream. Spy stream is when we go inside a live leftist training and we watch it live. If you want to see what the real far left says in the real world, then come to Spy Stream, because I will show you. Now, Spy Stream is a supporter exclusive. In order to get access to Spy Stream, you have to be a paying member on my main Substack, which is karlyn.substack.com. You could also be a member of my locals, my Patreon. You could be a Twitter subscriber, or you could be a YouTube channel member. You can find the access information for Spy Stream on whichever platform you support on. If you're choosing a platform, I would prefer Substack, which you can head over here and go to karlyn.substack.com. And basically what happens is you go into this post, and when you're a paying supporter, you are going to see the link to Spy Stream. Now, I'm not going to scroll down any further, because if I scroll down any farther, because I'm logged in under my own account, you will see the link to Spy Stream. But just scroll down the bottom of the post, you'll find the link. You can find the link on whatever platform you are supporting on, and you can join us. And the Spy Stream tonight is going to start at about 7:45 p.m. It's only going to last an hour. So I know everyone wants to go to Mac B's movie night. Mac B is showing War Games in the supporter Discord tonight, and I'm psyched about seeing War Games. I fucking love that movie. So I will be attending movie night with Mac B in the supporter Discord at 9 p.m. But Mac B, I want you to know, I made sure this training is only supposed to last about an hour, okay? So we should still be on time for Mac B's movie night right after the Spy Stream tonight, which is going to be awesome. That's another perk you get when you become a supporter in my community. You get to come to movie night in my supporter Discord on Sunday and Monday nights. And so everything should still be on time for today. Maybe they might be a little bit late. I mean, you know how it goes with leftists, right? It's like they might run a little bit late, but they did say this was only going to be an hour. So it's supposed to go from 8 to 9. So, and then at 9 p.m. we do movie night. After that, we will go to war with the left, and then we will go watch War Games, which is a classic. If you have, and honestly, I'm super psyched to watch War Games, because I feel like it's going to be hyper relevant to a lot of the stuff that we talk about. I haven't seen it in years. And so I think, yeah, do you want to play a game? The only way to win is not to play. So that's what we're going to be doing, guys. And I hope you will join me for that. Also, if anyone is still looking for those special edition Halloween t-shirts that were supposed to be out of my merch store the other day, guess what? They're still in my merch store. I am planning on taking the t-shirts down from the merch store tonight while I am watching the movie. So this is the definitely last chance to get the special limited edition Halloween collection in the Red Menace Supply Company. That is redmenacesupply.com. We got 4 limited edition Halloween designs. They were supposed to be taken out of the store the other day, but I was sick, and so I was sleeping. And so y'all got a couple extra days if you want to pick up those shirts. Also, just so you know, we're going to be doing a sale on the McCarthy shirts. The sale is not up yet, but we are going to be doing a sale on the McCarthy shirts. For those of you who saw my last Fox News appearance, this was actually the shirt I was wearing on Fox News, because it's awesome. So you can get that now if you want to give me more money, or you can wait a day or so, and there'll probably be a sale on those. And then we got our special holiday line that's going to be coming out soon, because can you guys believe it's November? Like, my anniversary is in 2 days. Well, remember the 5th of November. I cannot believe we're almost at the end of the year. So we will be doing a special holiday collection, of course, in the merch store. We do holiday specials every single year. I will also be bringing back some old favorite designs in the merch store in case you guys want to pick those up. We'll be doing those for a limited time only, but lots of cool things coming. And of course, all purchases do go to support the work I'm doing, and I really appreciate it. Now, one more thing before we get started, guys. One more thing before we get started. Guys, I've been outed. I've been outed as secret Antifa again. The retards of the internet are crying and crying and crying and making fun of my hair and calling me fat. And they're going back through my entire Instagram and they're finding videos when I had shorter hair and when I was a Democrat. And they are crying because it's over. It's over. You guys should all know I'm secret Antifa. I'm funded by George Soros. But I got to show you guys this because it's fucking hilarious. So the retards of the internet, the MAGA retards of Portland, made a clip of me, and they didn't even do it like the proper way, which is like you just watch it on the internet and you screen grab it or something. They actually recorded it with their phone because apparently they were that teed off. And they are pissed off because the MAGA retards of the internet are trying to say that Portland put that dumb blonde girl that's sleeping with all the influencers in a chokehold. You guys know which one I'm talking about, right? That right side rebel girl, the blonde girl. She's running around the Portland ICE facility trying to fuck all the MAGA influencers because that's the only way she knows how to be famous and to have clout. You've known for months I was Antifa, no mail. I know. Anyway, so that blonde girl that's been trying to fuck all the MAGA influencers, she got into a fight with Chandler's girlfriend down at the ICE facility. Chandler was standing right behind the blonde girl when the fight broke out, and he turned around to pull the blonde girl off his girlfriend. The MAGA retards of the internet have taken the footage of that and slowed it down so it looks like Chandler put her in a chokehold and then held her there because the footage is slowed down. Now listen, they're going to call me an Antifa apologist to this, but like, I believe in the truth. I'm not friends with Chandler. I'm sure as shit not friends with Chandler's girlfriend. Chandler's girlfriend is like a little fucking yappy chihuahua. But I'm also not friends with that blonde girl, and so I don't really care. Now, the rest, you gotta understand, because the blonde girl is trying to sleep with all the MAGA influencers down at the ICE facility, all the MAGA influencers, especially the men, are thinking with their cocks rather than their fucking brains. And so all the MAGA influencers are like, Chandler put her in a chokehold. We have to protect her. And I'm sitting here going, she got into a fight with Chandler's girlfriend, and Chandler pulled her off his girlfriend. And here's how I know this is what happened. Because I was actually there. The fight happened right fucking in front of me. I was standing there when it happened. I have the footage on my channel. You guys can go and see it. And what happened is Chandler's girlfriend tried to hit the phone of the blonde girl. They got into a fist fight. And then Chandler intervened to pull the blonde girl off his girlfriend. The MAGA influencers pulled Chandler's girlfriend off of the blonde girl. And now the MAGA influencers, because again, they're thinking with their dicks because the blonde girl's fucking everyone down at the MAGA facility, because they're thinking with their little heads instead of their big head, the MAGA influencers are going, Chandler put her in a chokehold and Chandler should go to prison. Well, here's how I know that didn't happen. An hour after that fight, maybe even less, the blonde girl was running around joking and laughing with Chandler's girlfriend. Now, listen, guys, I was actually assaulted at the ICE facility. I actually had MAGA retards hitting me because the MAGA retards didn't like what I was saying. And I was actually physically hit. After I was physically hit by a MAGA retard, do you know what I did? I stopped talking to the MAGA retards for the whole rest of the time I was there. And I told them to stay away from me. If someone actually physically assaults me, then I am going to actually not go around them, and I'm going to tell them to stay away from me. So if Chandler had actually choked out the blonde girl that's trying to sleep with all the MAGA influencers at the ICE facility, hang on, I have a problem I have to take care of on Kick. Kick usually is actually pretty chill, but we have a And so we have to take care of this person and block him. There we go, big motherfucker. There we go. Anyway, so when I got physically assaulted by MAGA supporters, I did my best to stay away from them. After the blonde girl got allegedly choked out by Chandler, she was so hurt and so in a state of shock at being physically attacked that the blonde girl was hanging out and laughing and joking with Chandler's girlfriend just like they were schoolgirls at a slumber party like an hour later. So no, I don't believe that she got choked out by Chandler because she was sitting there laughing and joking with his girlfriend an hour later and she was fine. Here's the other question I have. If the blonde girl was really choked out by Chandler, then why hasn't she pressed charges? It's been over a week. This happened allegedly last Saturday. Why hasn't the blonde girl pressed charges? Everyone else is pressing charges. You would think the blonde girl, who is again trying to sleep with all the MAGA interview influencers down at the ICE facility, she's so desperate to be famous that she's sleeping with really gross people, guys. Not all the people she's sleeping with are really gross. Some of them are nice. And, I don't blame the guys for getting their dick wet. Like, it is what it is. Men are going to do what they're going to do. I blame the blonde one for being a whore. But, that's neither here nor there. But what I will point out is this is someone who is literally sleeping with people in order to get famous on the internet. If she was actually choked out, do you think that I think she would pass up the opportunity to press charges in order to gain more clout? Of course not. Of course not. Oh, I have no proof she's doing that? I actually do. I've heard about it from multiple people. See, the MAGA retards never disappoint. Yeah, because again, they're all thinking with the little head and not the big head because she's blonde and she has boobs and all that stuff. So if this person who's so desperate to be famous could gain more clout by pressing charges against the so-called Antifa leader in Portland, don't you think she would do that? Oh, bro, I'm gonna have to block you in a second, but you're gonna have to hang out. I'm gonna take care of you in a second. Don't worry, we're gonna block you. We're gonna get you out of my feed forever. You're not smart enough to be here. Why hasn't she pressed charges? It's been over a week. If they have all of this video evidence that Chandler choked out the blonde girl, then why hasn't Chandler pressed charge? Or excuse me, why hasn't the blonde girl pressed charges against Chandler? I'm waiting. We're waiting for an answer. And so that's what I've been asking the MAGA retards on Twitter. I've been saying to them over and over and over again, if this really happened, then why was she hanging out laughing with Chandler's girlfriend an hour later, which I saw in person? And why hasn't she pressed charges against Chandler? And they never answer these questions. They are never capable of answering these questions because the answers are inconvenient. Again, I'm not on the side of Chandler. I'm not on the side of Chandler's yappy little chihuahua girlfriend. I'm certainly not on the side of stupid blonde MAGA whore. I'm not on anyone's side here. I am on the side of the truth. Oh, here's the answer. They wouldn't do anything. Well, you guys have video evidence. You retards keep saying you have video evidence that you don't actually have because you took it and edited it to make it look like something it wasn't. The reason your stupid asses are not pressing charges is because you can't, you stupid motherfucker. Oh yeah, Cam Higbee has proof? Then why hasn't she pressed charges? Okay, so now the MAGA retards of the internet, and yeah, right now I'm calling you a MAGA retard because you've been doing this shit in my chat a lot lately, and you can either take it or not. I don't really care. If all of the MAGA retards have all this ironclad evidence that you have video of it from multiple angles. You idiots are telling me you have videos of it from multiple angles. And you refuse to go to the cops and you refuse to press charges? Yeah, I don't believe you. I do not believe you at all. Yeah, Pinky swear, trust us, bro. He totally did it. Listen, there are plenty of good reasons to criticize Chandler. There are plenty of good reasons to criticize Chandler's girlfriend. I don't find it acceptable to try to get people arrested for something they didn't fucking do because you have a political vendetta against them. Maybe Maybe it's because I have a friend that went to prison. Hang on, I have to take a sip of coffee. Hang on. Still sick. Got a cold. Hang on. Maybe it's because I have a friend that went to prison for years and years and years for something that he didn't do, that I find this personally fucking offensive. But if you can't beat Chandler and his fucking Chihuahua girlfriend on real things that actually happened in the real world, then you deserve to fucking lose. If you are making shit up to try to get someone put in jail, and then you don't even press charges against that person because the blonde girl can't, because nothing ever happened to her, and there's other footage from other angles that shows exactly what happened that the MAGA retards of the internet don't want you to see. If you're making shit up to try to get someone in actual legal trouble, you are a fucking shitty person. I'm sorry. That's just reality. And I'm not going to coddle this bullshit. I am not going to take the side of the MAGA retards on the internet when I was right fucking there. I saw what happened. Are you Chandler based on real things? Are you based on things that actually happened? Don't make fucking shit up and then take video out of context and slow it down to make sure it looked like Chandler held her longer than he did. It is a retard thing to do. So what are all the MAGA retards doing in the comments? Look, they're talking about me. They're talking about me. Look at this. They're all complaining about me in the comments. This is a video that I made how fucking long ago? This is when I was this is early 2020. This is a video from early 2020. Do you know how I know it's a video from early 2020? Because I filmed that in the parking lot outside of my Orange Theory where I was going to like work out, because I used to do videos in the car after class or whatever. And that's when that was filmed. This is from almost 6 years ago. They are going through my fucking Instagram from 6 fucking years ago. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, this is the retard that physically assaulted me. By the way, this retard that physically assaulted me is still whining and complaining today about me, which shows you that definitely didn't happen, bro. That definitely didn't happen. Retard meth head Shane of the internet is still complaining about me over a week after he physically assaulted me. But oh, that didn't happen. Yep. They've got all this stuff. Oh, look. Proof I'm not a journalist. This guy's pissed off because I blocked him on Twitter. That doesn't really matter. Look at this. All this stuff. They're all whining and complaining. Most of these people I blocked on Twitter are long. Here's what I actually want to show you guys. They're actually trying to tell people that I doctored evidence. So do you guys remember when I went undercover at the Seattle Anarchist Book Fair? Of course you do. I was on an Antifa hit list wall. And by the way, they never mentioned this. These idiots are running around the internet right now saying I'm secret Antifa, but they don't tell you that I was literally on an Antifa hit list wall at the Seattle Anarchist Book Fair, where I showed up anyway. And one of the things I was handed at the Seattle Anarchist Book Fair was this flyer about Antifa doing something on Mischief Night the night before Halloween. Now, I wasn't the only independent journalist there that was handed this flyer. Matt Adams was handed this flyer. I'm pretty sure Jonathan Cho was handed this flyer too, because they were handing this flyer to everyone that went to the Seattle Anarchist Book Fair. And so, because now, of course, I made this flyer go viral on the internet. Hours after I got it, I put it on the internet and I said, look, guys, Antifa is planning to attack ICE the night before Halloween in Seattle. Let me ask you guys this. If something has gone viral, if one of your flyer, if you are, let me start again. If you are Antifa and one of your flyers that you hand out at your Antifa event where you didn't expect any right-wingers to be, one of those flyers goes viral on the internet, are you going to continue to have the event as scheduled? Because, like, this is one of the stupidest things that's ever happened. The minute, Jonathan Cho literally reposted this because he was at the event where they were handing it out. He knows it's real. So what happened is the flyer went viral on the internet. Obviously, people in Antifa know the flyer's gone viral on the internet. So did anyone actually think that they were going to continue to hold this event as scheduled? Well, guess who did believe that? The MAGA retards of Portland believe that. And the MAGA retards of Portland carpooled down to Seattle, and all of them dressed up to go to the Antifa event. And then guess what? They showed up and basically no one was there and nothing happened. Do you want to know why no one was there and nothing happened? Because after it went viral on the internet, they changed their plans, you stupid fucking retards. So what do you think they're doing? Are they looking inside themselves and saying, did we really expect Antifa to continue to try to have this event after it had already gone viral on the internet? Did they do that? No, they're blaming me. The retards of the internet are actually blaming me, saying I faked a mischief night event in order to trick them. Yeah. All right. All right, retards. All right. So you can see that they're all complaining about me and bitching about me and whining about me. Oh, look, they're even posting this clip. Does everyone remember this? Does everyone remember when I was on Fox News to talk about breaking the Coke Be Less White story? And again, this happened years ago to me. The conservative retards of the internet cut me out of context to make it seem like I was a leftist. Oh, wow, that clip is their proof that I'm secretly Antifa. Anyway, I had to show you guys this. Here, the slow-mo image. The slow-mo image of Chandler choking someone. Okay, whatever. What idiocy. Listen. MAGA retards. Oh, hang on. Got to ban someone on Kick again. Second person I had to ban on Kick today. Bye, asshole. Goodbye. Goodbye. So MAGA retards. Here's the last thing I'm going to say about this. I'm no longer going to be arguing your stupid asses. Either the blonde whore presses charges or she didn't. Oh, I look like a leftist. I look like... Listen, are you smart enough to be here? On this channel, we listen to what people say. We don't actually judge people based on their looks. It's only MAGA loser retards who judge people based on their looks. So you're going in a timeout right now. You can assess whether or not you're smart enough to be here and whether or not you want to stick around. Until the blonde OnlyFans whore presses charges, I don't know if she has an OnlyFans. I recant. I recant. Until the blonde whore that's fucking all the MAGA influencers presses charges against Chandler, I don't believe she was choked out. And if she has all of this evidence, all of this video evidence, then she should be taking that evidence to Harmeet Dillon. And Harmeet Dillon should be using it to go after the Portland police to say, you are going to charge this crime, motherfucker. Otherwise, you're engaging in discrimination. It's not as though the blonde whore doesn't have avenues that she can pursue. If Chandler actually choked her, and she actually has evidence, then she needs to go press charges. And if she's unwilling to do that, no amount of MAGA retard whining is actually going to change reality. That's all I have to say about that. And now we will go back to ignoring the MAGA retards. And now we will start it on our actual show. And now I will go block that asshole on Twitter who is causing such commotion. I just had to get back into my normal account. Hang on. Let me just go block that guy on Twitter so I don't have to see his ass in the chat anymore, because I don't really want to. He's been blowing up my Twitter chat, and he's annoying and stupid, and he's not smart enough to be here. And now we will block him. And now it will be quiet. Block. Ah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Peace. Quiet. No retard screeching in my ear. All right, guys. All right, let's get into our main show today. Now, this video isn't that long. It's about 43 minutes. We are going to get 40. Yes, we are now unburdened. We are now unburdened by what has been. The retards are now silenced. The retards can continue reeing in their own mind, but they are silenced here. All right. We are going to be listening to this interview that Andy No did with American thought leaders, and we're going to be evaluating whether or not Andy No actually knows what the ever-loving F he's talking about when it comes to Antifa. What I think we're going to get in this interview is, I was attacked by Antifa, and it really sucked that I was attacked by Antifa, and Antifa tried to embarrassing me by attacking me, and Antifa goes after journalists they don't like, and did you know I was attacked by Antifa because I was attacked by Antifa, and Antifa is really bad, and Trump is going to save us from Antifa, and Antifa is funded by George Soros, and I was attacked by Antifa. Did you know I was attacked by Antifa because I was attacked by Antifa, and it was really bad, and then I wrote a book about how I was attacked by Antifa, and Antifa is really bad. I think that that's probably what we're going to get in this interview, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, I will admit it. But let's get this party started, guys. Let's see what happened.
Nearly killed twice by Antifa for his reporting.
I hope my
Do you hear how it started out? Andy No was nearly killed twice by Antifa. Yeah, okay, exactly.
I was bleeding out from this area under my eyes, bleeding out from my ears.
And by the way, I know I'm making fun of this. I don't actually want to diminish Andy getting attacked. It that was wrong. That was wrong and awful, and what happened to him was horrific. And even though I think Andy is a lying narrative shill that doesn't do any real journalism today, I will never take away what's happened to him in the past, and I will never take away the good that I think he's done, because I don't think Andy No is a total loss as a human being. I just think he's a narrative grifter today, but that doesn't mean that I think him getting attacked was acceptable, and I want to make sure I say that.
And then bleeding in my brain.
Andy No is the author of the New York Times bestseller, Unmasked, inside Antifa's radical plan to destroy democracy. He's been beaten, attacked, and nearly killed twice by Antifa for his reporting.
I hope my reporting and my suggestions can give investigators some potential ideas.
Trump recently designated the group as a domestic terror organization in an executive order and hosted a roundtable with Andy No and other journalists who recounted their experiences.
You don't get that level of successful rioting without coordination. And they were clearly coordinated. They had flyers, where to come, where to go. People have died by radical leftists.
The evidence that Andy has that Antifa is coordinating is they have flyers. They have flyers. People know that anyone can make a flyer, right? Like, making a flyer isn't actually that hard. Does everyone can like one in the chat if you can make a flyer today? Is the fact that they have flyers true of like proof of like mass coordination? Can I print out can I get a ream of paper and print out like 500 flyers on my printer right now at home? I'm pretty sure like anyone can do that. I'm probably funded by George Soros though.
U.S.
This is American Thought Leaders, and I'm Yanya Kellick. Andy No, such a pleasure to have you back on American Thought Leaders.
Thank you.
You were just at the White House roundtable on Antifa, and the AG Pam Bondi talked about, of course, it's been designated a domestic terrorist organization. She talked about taking it apart brick by brick, top to bottom. Kash Patel mentioned, the FBI director, that it had been built over a long period of time. How does one actually accomplish this?
It's going to be very, very difficult, not easy. I alluded to that in my comments to the president and members of his cabinet. Well, what the DOJ can do is there's several things. First, if they take on cases of criminal suspects who are engaging in federal crimes relating to rioting and other attacks, that then takes it out of the hands of local prosecutors generally, because local prosecutors aren't going to pursue charges against most of these riot cases, or they give them sweetheart plea deals where there's no really meaningful consequence. as we saw.
Okay, so Andy is already running cover for the Trump administration, and I've heard this excuse from many people associated with the Trump administration, which is it doesn't matter that Trump declared Antifa a terrorist organization; they still can't arrest them because the prosecutors won't prosecute them. So what you're saying, Andy, is that I was completely right when I said that Trump couldn't really declare them as a terrorist organization and that nothing would happen because you retards don't even know how to identify Antifa. And even if you did, nothing would happen to them in the first place. Got it. Okay.
2020. There's that. So I'm not even talking about conspiracy charges or anything, just like assault, arson, charges that attack some federal officers. Like there are federal crimes that can apply right now. You don't have to.
So why are they arresting them?
But more
Maybe they should arrest
meaningfully,
them.
taking it apart brick by brick, as you were just quoted them saying. I think the DOJ should use conspiracy charges. They have not used that at any point ever for suspects who are accused of being part of Antifa or committing in.
How are they using conspiracy charges, Andy? They don't even know what the groups are called, and you're telling them that they're coordinating via the creation of a fucking flyer, which is not actually how they coordinate. I mean, I suppose it's one way that they might recruit people to come out to events or make sure people have information. But Andy, you know they're not actually coordinating that way, right? Why don't you educate the audience about how Antifa coordinates so you can help the Trump administration build a case against them to do these drummed up conspiracy charges that you're talking about?
Organized crimes in furtherance of the Antifa ideology. But it hasn't been done before at the state level. And the state of California versus 12 suspects, that was the case. And prosecutors in San Diego alleged that 12 members they had identified were part of SoCal Antifa, a regional cell in Southern California that included members in LA and Long Beach and San Diego, that they had conspired together to carry out violence and rioting on Pacific Beach in January 2021. On that day,
why are we talking about something that happened in 2021? I was under the impression that we were talking about Antifa now. We're talking about something that happened 4 fucking years ago. This is exactly what I told you was going to happen because Andy No doesn't do real journalism today. He only rests on his laurels from the past. The reason that Andy is defaulting to in early 2021 is in early 2021, Andy actually was doing journalism. It was a different time back then. Andy was actually doing real journalism in that time period. That's why the first words out of his mouth are in early 2021. Well, guess what, Andy? It's late 2025. It's almost 4 fucking years later. So why aren't we talking about today? Why are we talking about something that happened 4 fucking years ago when Trump wasn't even in office?
groups of people came dressed in black with their faces covered, and they had melee weapons and projectile weapons, and they attacked violently people who were attending a pro-Trump rally. The violence was so unrestrained that the militants attacked members of the public on the beach, people who were walking their dogs, people who were walking nearby. This is during the middle of the day when there were people going to the beach, and they were affected by the mace and pepper spray. A woman was beaten to the ground. A teenage boy who was underage was assaulted, and there were numerous victims.
I was affected by the pepper.
Was bashed on the back.
Wait, according to Andy, no, I was assaulted by Antifa a week ago when I was affected by pepper spray outside of the Portland Ice facility. People don't think I've been assaulted by Antifa. I was affected by the pepper spray outside of the ice facility, and Andy just qualified that as being attacked by Antifa. So go fuck yourselves if you guys think I haven't been attacked by Antifa. I have, based on Andy's definition.
With some type of pole or a stick. And police were injured. And in this case, the majority of them were convicted of felony conspiracy. All 12 were convicted of something, by the way.
Yeah, cleared out my
And because it went to trial,
it did.
The evidence came out, what the prosecutors had. They likely had one person out of the 12 cooperating. That's my belief.
Who cares?
Recover signal chats.
This
Everyone
is not
had an
today.
alias. They coordinated who was coming together, who was leaving together, what cars, what to bring. And it showed that there were even some left-wing journalists who were in the Signal chat who were there, by the way. None of that was particularly surprising to me. I knew all that. I wrote a book on Antifa called Unmasked. It was a New York Times bestseller. It came out in 2021. However, it was
I wrote a book 4 fucking years ago, and it is actually a good book. I have no problem with this particular book. I wrote a book 4 years ago about Antifa, and I haven't done any real journalism since then.
surprising in the context that this came out on the record in a criminal trial, finally. And of course, that case got no national media attention at all. So I think the DOJ can really look to that and see, because there are federal charges of conspiracy that can apply. Even more creatively,
So why haven't they
can
done that
potentially
yet,
even
Andy?
look at racketeering charges, because
Why
of
haven't they
how
done that yet?
some of the Antifa networks themselves
Racketeering.
organize.
Okay.
They operate as a gang, essentially.
This is so depressing.
They have members. They coordinate together. You typically use Signal.
No, well, that is actually
and
true.
They
They
have
do
a
use
plan
Signal.
and are instructed for how to destroy evidence as well.
Yes, they
now,
are.
where it gets more confusing or difficult, maybe from prosecutors' perspective, from law enforcement perspective, is how do you identify those who are in a cell versus somebody who shows up to riot and is not part of the network? There are certain ways to identify that, but the way that Antifa organizes, it's meant to...
I'm going to tell you exactly how you identify that, Andy. You go onto CrimeThink and you download Antifa's Direct Action Manual, which we did not too long ago. I did a whole stream where we read Antifa's Direct Action Manual, and we read about basically the standard operating procedure about what to do if you're going to participate in a direct action, which is up to and including showing up in black bloc, dressing a certain way, only having certain types of clothes, doing certain things with your shoes to cover your DNA evidence, making sure you don't have your phone with you, practicing surveillance culture, having different sorts of umbrellas or weapons or things like that, and doing those sorts of things. There's a whole fucking checklist, motherfucker. Why aren't you telling people this? We've literally covered this on my channel. It's not as though this is private, secret information. How you identify Antifa is people who show up following Antifa's standard operating procedure for direct action, which does not deviate ever. This is not even that difficult.
appear as if there is no organization, but they are organized. I hope people don't forget what happened in 2020 when for
2020,
months
5 years
cities
ago.
like Portland and Seattle and other places were besieged by nightly violence by Antifa. Individuals who all donned the same black uniform, showed up at the same time,
Like they have
dispersed
standard
together
operating
and carried out
procedure.
mass violence, and disappeared into the darkness of the night, and did it night after night after night, with local prosecutors essentially doing nothing. Even when police didn't make arrests, in the case of Portland, the district attorney there, Mike Schmidt, chose not to prosecute over 90% of them. His office, as soon as he came into power in August 2020, just had a whole
The Trump
list
administration
of
can't do anything
riot-related
because
crimes
they
that he
haven't
announced his office
prosecuted
will not
them.
pursue charges on those who are charged with these. And at those riots, what I saw, particularly when the federal courthouse in downtown was besieged, in an insurrection, night after night in July, thousands of people came. They were extremely coordinated. At the front were the so-called wall of mums. That was all for the cameras. These are Antifa members and their supporters, females, who would wear yellow shirts, hook arms, and had signs
This is back in
saying, "We are
2020.
mothers, we are
Again,
moms."
what is going on
It was for
today,
the cameras,
Andy?
because, of course, the video cameras and
6
pictures
years
that come out
ago.
of that and their stories in the legacy media from that time, peaceful protesters. These are just mothers who are protesting against white supremacy and racism and police brutality, peer propaganda. You know who was behind them? And the wall of mums knew this. Behind them was the black bloc. There was a brigade of those who were shining powerful green lasers. There were dozens of them who had these lasers. And it's not like it was one laser for each officer. No, the whole group of 50 would concentrate on one person. So when you have, I mean, your eyes can get injured from one being directed at it when you have dozens of people shining lights. And so dozens of officers did suffer pretty serious eye
That is all
injuries at
true.
that
Why aren't we
time.
talking about today, though?
There were those in the back, in the black bloc, who hurled projectile weapons, things that looked peaceful on camera. Like holding a water bottle is not particularly threatening, but when it's frozen and it's used to hurl at somebody's
True.
face, it can be deadly. And that's what they were doing. They had rocks, they even brought cans of soup. So all these type of things that were not actually illegal to have. It's not illegal to have a bag of rocks in your backpack or cans of soup or frozen water bottles. But those were the type of weapons they were using. And then they had so-called medics. These are fake medics. These are people, homemade printed medic patches.
Well, actually, Andy, as we recently learned on my interview with Chandler, because unlike you, I actually talk to these people when they'll talk to me. We actually recently learned from our interview with Chandler that the people who are medics down at the ICE facility in Portland are actual medical students. So that's what we heard from the leader of Antifa. There are medics that are medical students or they have some sort of medical training. They're not just fake medics. So maybe we could be more accurate.
And even their own so-called press, even within the rioters, there were those who had homemade press badges that they printed out. And the purpose for that was to make police apprehensive of making an arrest, you know, like an attack on a journalist or something like that. And anything that could be used as a weapon was, some of the weapons included a blade being attached to the end of the umbrellas, so they can use that to jab at police. And they brought ropes and electric grinding, cutting tools to cut apart the reinforced fencing that was put outside the federal courthouse. This fencing, by the way, was the same type of fencing that was used outside the Capitol building after the 6.
We are 10 minutes into the interview and we have not left the years of 2020 and 2021 yet. And this is exactly the fucking problem. And this is why I have such an issue with Andy No putting himself out there as the influencer talking about Antifa today, because his information is not current. Andy No did excellent journalism back in 2020 and 2021. It is almost 2026. A lot has happened since then. There are different people involved now. There are probably different tactics involved now. Why aren't we talking about what's going on right now? Why are we taking Andy No on a stroll down memory lane for journalism he did 5 fucking years ago? And this is the lead into the interview.
January, so it's very heavy duty. But we had thousands of rioters working in coordinated fashion, and they were able to snap that fence. Night after night, they were doing this. You don't get that level of successful rioting without coordination. And they were clearly coordinated. They had flyers, where to come, where to go.
Flyers.
So I bring up this example from 5 years ago because I don't want it to be memory hole. The press would like to, but the Antifa then are building off what they learned at that time for today. And so, and part of the lessons that they learned is how do we hide evidence that we're organized? So they have so many tactics, right? They will use, they will put their phones in Faraday, I think they're called Faraday bags, to block signals so that the towers can't pick up geolocation on their devices, which could be used as evidence that they were charged with something. They operate in these ad hoc signal groups.
True.
And some of this evidence came out in an ongoing criminal case out of Texas, actually, North District of Texas. The public and the national press aren't really covering this at all. But in July, over a dozen mass militants with tactical gear and firearms shot up
Hang on. The public isn't covering this? The public isn't covering this. Interesting. Where is it? Hang on. Oh, shit. Hang on. I'm trying to remember what I called this. Where is it? Here it is. Boom. No one's covering this. No one's covering what's going on in Texas. Huh. How would you guys like to know what Antifa was what the Antifa people in Texas were reading? How would you guys like to know? Hey, look, I have a whole article on it. You think we're not covering this, Andy? You think we're not paying attention? I've actually probably written more interesting stuff about this than Andy has. Because the thing of it is we actually went and looked at the zine collection of the people in Texas, and we figured out what zines they're reading. So we figured out what they're actually thinking and what ideas are inspiring them. This happened not too long after, because when the photos got released, look, we found their zines. And guess what? The most interesting one, and shout out to Nick on this one, the most interesting zine they have is this one in the back here. So we can see Organizing for an Attack, Insurrectionary Anarchy. We can see a whole bunch of other stuff. All of these, by the way, these zines come from the anarchist book fairs, which I'm the one that goes to anarchist book fairs. Andy doesn't go to anarchist book fairs. Andy has never been to anarchist book fairs. Andy probably didn't even know these anarchist book fairs existed. Do you know where communists get the fucking zines? They get them at the anarchist book fairs. For all of the fucking retards on Twitter, because this is one of the things they like to say about me, they're like, Karlyn doesn't go undercover with Antifa. She just goes to these book fairs. Well, guess what? The reason I know about these zines, and the reason my community knows what these zines are, is because we go to the event where these fucking things are distributed. So kind of seems like it's Antifa events for me. So we went through and we did an analysis about what these people are reading. And the most interesting one is right here in the back. It says, filth is our politics. Filth is our life. That's what it said in the back. We had to do fucking detective work to figure out what that one is. Do you guys know where that's from? Towards the queerest insurrection. We have covered Towards the Queerest Insurrection on this channel 19 ways from Sunday. Do you know what is at the end of Towards the Queerest Insurrection? Filth is our politics. Filth is our life. Did Andy know that? No. We have covered this document. If you go back to my Substack, hang on, I'll bring you right back there. Filth is our politics. Filth is our life. That is from Towards the Queerest Insurrection. We have covered Towards the Queerest Insurrection a minimum of 3 fucking times on my Substack in the last couple years. Andy has no idea that a document even... No, actually, I'm going to take that back. Andy does know that document exists. Do you know how Andy knows that document exists? I sent it to him. The only reason Andy would even have any relevance to that document at all, which is one of the things that influenced the Texas fucking Antifa shooters, the only reason Andy knows that is because I fucking told him about it, because I have covered that document a minimum of 3 times, and I actually think I've covered it more. No one else is covering this, Andy? Okay. Nice story, bro. Nice story.
The ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, the Prairie Land facility. And an officer was shot in the neck. He was very fortunate to survive that. Most of the ambush attackers were apprehended that night by local law enforcement. The alleged ringleader, Benjamin Song, fled the area. Investigators believe that he hid in a forested area around the facility for over a day until it was safe for him to flee. Multiple firearms were recovered. They came with a cache of weapons. They had a getaway car. Tons of weapons were discovered in the car. And the ringleader was on the run for 2 weeks. and he wasn't captured until almost 14 days afterward. He was found in an Antifa safe house among some of his comrades in Dallas. So he didn't go very far. He just stayed in the city where his network was. And this was an individual who I had been tracking through my reporting before because he was part of the John Brown Gun Club, which is a name that people should know. That's a far left militia, a anarchist, communist militia that teaches its members to use firearms, not for self-defense, but in furtherance of violence against its perceived enemies and the state. And back in 2019, a member of the John Brown Gun Club carried out another shooting attack on an ICE facility. That was the Tacoma ICE facility in Washington State. And this was somebody I had seen before in my reporting on Antifa. His name was Willem van Spronsen. He was a Belgian American, naturalized American citizen who was extremely radical. He was older. I believe he was in his late 60s. So he was much older than the average Antifa member, but nevertheless extremely ideological and radicalized. Willem van Spronsen showed up with a ghost rifle, which is a homemade firearm. So it was unregistered, untraceable, and began shooting up the facility. And he had explosive devices with him that he used to set cars on fire outside the facility. And he was aiming at a huge propane tank that was attached to the building. And he was shot dead before he was able to blow it up. And before he carried out the attack, this John Brown Gun Club member sent out a manifesto to his comrades. None of them contacted law enforcement, of course. But the contents of that manifesto are posted online and shared by Antifa as a template for others to carry out similar direct action. And in that manifesto, he describes himself as Antifa. He gives reverence to his trans comrades in particular. And this was 2019, by the way, so this was slightly predating the rise of Trantifa violence that we're seeing.
Oh my! There it is.
Pardon me,
there
which
it is.
comrade?
Wait. Andy, again.
Particular, and this was 2019, by the way. So this was slightly predating the rise of Trantifa violence.
Andy No thinks that 2019 is slightly predating the Trantifa violence. Hang on 1 second, please. Hang on. We're going to debunk this shit right now. You think that Andy No doesn't know that queer Marxist militants existed before 2019? I'm doing this right fucking now. We're going back through my DMs with him live. We are doing this live right now, motherfucker. Hang on. I'm going to show you my DMs with Andy No. Hang on. I want to make sure I see where this actually started. Okay. We're going to start here. Andy No wants to argue. Hang on. I've got to get a couple things on my screen. Andy No wants to argue that Trantifa violence did not start before 2019. Andy, I beg to differ, because the thing is, Andy, the bashback movement started in around 2008. And the bashback movement was predated by the ACT UP movement, which was the first violent, militant, queer Marxist movement. But they got more violent. And actually, I'll bring this back up. Hang on. We were just looking at Towards the Queerest Insurrection. Towards the Queerest Insurrection is a document. They have it published as 2014, but it actually came out before 2014. It came out in about 2008. It was written by the Mary Nardini Gang, which is a group of violent queer militants in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the late 2000s. I'm on Team Karlyn, who is always right. Hey, I'm going to prove that now, no mail. The reason we know it came out before 2014 is because there's this book called Queer Ultraviolence, a Bashback Anthology. This book was covering documents that were basically the entire bashback movement. So if you go into the book, hang on, where do I get the PDF? Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Here we go. Here is the PDF. If you guys want to see the PDF, I will put the link to the PDF in the chat so you can download the PDF directly. You never have to take my word for it. Oh, you can't even see what I'm looking at. There you go. This is the Queer Ultraviolence, the Bashback Anthology. This is the Mary Nardini Gang. This is the Violent Militant Queer Marxist Movement. This was published in 2011. MAGA retard. We're not doing this right now. I have dispensed with your bullshit. I am no longer arguing with you MAGA retards regarding if the blonde whore was choked out or not. If the blonde whore was choked out, she can go and file fucking charges. No more arguing about retarded bullshit. I am sick of hearing it. I don't want to hear it anymore. If the blonde whore doesn't file charges, she was not fucking choked out. Back to this. Andy No wants to say that militant, violent, queer activism didn't start until after 2019. Then why was the Bashback Anthology published in 2011? And the reason I know that Towards the Queerest Insurrection was written before the date in the Anarchist Library is Towards the Queerest Insurrection is literally in the fucking book. It was written about 2008. So, this is an entire several hundred page book. This is a 400 fucking page book about militant, violent, queer activism written by militant, violent, queer Marxists in the Bashback movement, people who were actually fucking involved, telling us everything they did. This is a documentary of everything these people did and every single thing they believe. So I just want to go back to what Andy said for a second. I just want to go back over here. Listen again.
He describes himself as ANTIFA. He gives reverence to his trans comrades in particular. And this was 2019, by the way. So this was slightly predating the rise of Trantifa violence that we're seeing now.
2019 was slightly predating the rise of Trantifa. This should show us that we can only save ourselves, but that we are more effective than the government or any of these big name media companies. Yeah, that's true. So, Andy, if 2019 was slightly predating the rise of Trantifa, then why do I have a book called Queer Ultraviolence, the Bashback Anthology, that was published in 2011? Because it seems to me as though 2011 and the events leading up to the publication of this book, which started around 2008, were slightly predating 2019 when Andy says Trantifa started. Now, you might say, Karlyn, maybe Andy doesn't know about the Queer Ultraviolence book, and maybe Andy doesn't know about the Bashback movement. And here's the part where I'm going to prove to you emphatically that Andy no fucking knows, and he doesn't fucking care, and he would prefer to lie to people to shill a fake Trantifa narrative because this is what promotes his brand. Let's look at my DMs, shall we? Let's look at my DMs with Andy No. You can see this is Andy No. These are my DMs with Andy No. This DM is on May 29th, 2025. I tried to send this information to Andy in May of this year. Andy, I've been researching Bashback and the evolution of queer Marxist activism for over a year because I'm writing a book about it. Last night, we discovered they're officially reconstituting the organization, which existed as the violent arm of queer activism from 2008 to 2012-ish. This is not the same as Antifa, although there is overlap. This is not going to be good. So I was trying to say, hey, Andy, did you know the violent militant queer Marxist arm from the late 2000s is reactivating? Andy says It's part of Antifa and involved many of the same people. No, it didn't. I'm sure you noticed the use of the same symbols. No, they're not the same symbols at all. It's a completely different color scheme. Antifa is quite wide and covers many groups and movements. And I said, Andy, this group was operational in the mid-2000s. It is a completely separate group. They have organized cells in multiple cities. By the way, guys, if you go through the entire Bashback anthology, it doesn't mention Antifa once. You guys can all look at it. You all have the PDF. I put it in the chat. The Bashback anthology does not mention Antifa one single time. They documented it here and in the zines in my archive. And then you'll see here the link that I sent to Andy that I just clicked on is Queer Ultraviolence. Don't tell me Andy didn't have access to this information. I literally sent him the same thing that I am showing you right now. And I did this in private before I ever called him out publicly for being a lying fucking narrative shill. He had access to all the information. He chose to ignore it. I think what happened is they stopped organizing. Members of the group gravitated towards Antifa because they're absolutely involved, but it is not the same group. They have a very specific set of documents and organizing. This group was active before Occupy. The group we are talking about with the Bashback movement was active before Occupy Wall Street. This is fact, and it's all documented with primary sources. Andy says, Antifa had been around the U.S. since the 2000s. Well, hey, Andy, that's really nice, but guess what? There are movements preceding the Bashback movement. I said, then why is there no mention of it in their 400-page anthology? Again, there's not one single mention of Antifa in the Bashback anthology because Bashback is a completely different fuck-off group than Antifa, and their own documents tell us that. Why were there specific Bashback groups organized all across the Midwest performing direct actions as Bashback? Why are there specific Bashback convergences? Overlap, yes. Same group, no. This doesn't undermine any of your work on Antifa, but do not treat this as a distinct problem with a very distinct set of values and organizing principles, flies in the face of evidence. Even now, their new manifesto is not on any of the Antifa websites. It's on a Bashback website. And then I sent him the silence equals death poster, and I said, this is where the symbology comes from, the ACT UP movement in the 80s. Andy wants to tell me Antifa has been around since the 2000s. Oh yeah? Guess what? The symbol that the Bashback movement, it was in the 80s, motherfucker. Thanks, Nomero. I appreciate it. And that was it. And Andy didn't reply anymore. So when Andy is telling Jan Jekielek, and I do actually like Jan, by the way, this is no shade on him. Trantifa started after 2019. He is proving to us that he has done no research into what this thing is because he is shilling a false narrative because that false narrative keeps him relevant and keeps him making money. But it is not the real story. And I now just showed you emphatically, Andy had the evidence. Andy was given that evidence in private by me months ago before I ever said anything publicly. He could have just worked it into his narrative, guys. He literally could have just gone back and said, oh, here's where these ideas come from, and I would have been perfectly fucking happy. He didn't do it. He ignored it, and now he is lying to the public, and this is where my problem is. Andy Ngo stopped being a journalist a long fucking time ago. He is now a narrative shill for the Trump administration, nothing more.
Himself as Antifa. He gives reverence to his trans comrades in particular. And this was 2019, by the way, so this was slightly predating the rise of Trantifa violence that we're seeing now.
And by the way, militant queer activism started in the United States in the 60s. Let's not pretend that militant queer activism is anything new. How do I know this, you ask? Because I've been working on a book about this for over a fucking year. I have been working on researching this particular subculture for years. I'm working on a book about it right now. It started in the 60s in earnest. There were a couple things leading up to that, but to overlook things like Compton's cafeteria riot, to overlook the Stonewall riots, to overlook the creation of the Gay Liberation Front and the Street Transvestites Action, whatever the fuck, to overlook the ACT UP movement entirely, which the ACT UP movement was a big fucking deal in the 80s that is still influential today. Andy No wants to trick his retard audience into believing that Antifa just got invented in 2019. No, 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 sir. No, 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 no. And don't pretend you didn't have access to the fucking information because I gave it to you.
Pardon me, which comrades?
Trans comrades.
Trans comrades, got it.
And
Queer,
towards the end of
actually,
this manifesto,
queer.
he's listing out all his grievances against the state and white supremacy. Things that we've all heard before and can expect of far left violent militant. But he also includes the lyrics of the Italian folk song Bella Ciao.
Yeah, I can't know unless you've
Thank
been
you
there.
for tuning in to American Thought Leaders. In a world where spin and agendas dominate the headlines, I'm proud to bring you unfiltered insights from the brightest minds in America. From a relative
No commercial, no commercial yawn, no commercial. Hang on.
Back to the interview. You know, you live in London, England now. Tell me the circumstance.
Andy lives in London. Now, the story that Andy's going to tell is, I had to move to London to get to get away from Antifa because they were attacking me. And listen, there is truth to that. There is truth that Antifa in Portland wanted to kill him. There is truth that there is still Kill Andy No tags all over Portland. I saw some of them myself when I was out there. That's true. Did Andy have to move to London to get away from Antifa? No, he didn't. Again, guys, there are many journalists in the United States that have been attacked by Antifa that still live in the United States today and still do journalism today. Andy No wanted to move to London before he got attacked by Antifa. Do you know how I know this? Because I talked to some people who have known Andy for a really long time, who were covering all this stuff with Andy back in like 2016, 2017. And they told me flat out, Andy wanted to move to London before all this, and then he moved to London, and then he uses I needed to get away from Antifa as an excuse to move to London. Now, Andy can live wherever the fuck he wants. I don't really care. But the fact that Andy lives in London just proves that he's not a real journalist anymore, because Andy could be covering Antifa in London. Andy could be taking a quick train ride over to Paris and covering Antifa in Paris. Andy could be doing all sorts of on-the-ground journalism in London. He's not, because he's sitting in his flat way outside of America, and he is doing what I call Twitter journalism, which he is covering things that other people make go viral on fucking Twitter.
Behind which you had to actually move there.
Sometimes people think I was being dramatic when I said I had to leave the US for safety reasons. I mean, they might not be aware that I nearly died. It took a very long time.
I nearly died.
Get some improvements through various forms of therapies through the hospital. Leading up to the 2019 beating.
By the way, London is actually probably more dangerous for Andy No to live in than some parts of America. Let's be fucking real for a second. London is actually worse off when it comes to communism than America is. It is significantly more likely that Andy's going to be attacked by some sort of fucking Muslim immigrant in London than it is in America. It's actually significantly likely more likely that Andy's going to be attacked by fucking Antifa in London than he is in America. But he wants to show this story. I had to leave the country to get rid of Antifa because I was attacked. No, Andy wanted to move to London before all this, and then he used it as an excuse, and then he still uses the story to get people to feel sorry for him.
Where they punched me repeatedly on the head and face so hard that I was bleeding out from this area under my eyes, bleeding out from my ears, and then bleeding in my brain, which I didn't know at the time. They threw all those drinks on me, and you know, these are the pictures that people see when they first Google. It's me covered in these drinks. That was 2019. 2020, I was undercover and embedded in these riots, and that's how I gathered the field research for most of the material from my book. 2021, I left the country for 6 months, and I thought, you know, maybe it's time to go home. My parents were in Portland. Their health was not great. It was very difficult being away from them. So I went back to Portland and I thought, maybe I can do more reporting. At that point, I had received a lot of death threats. But for those who are in the public space and they're effective at what they do, particularly when they are good at exposing left-wing extremism, they do get a lot of threats. And at a certain point, it's easy to sort of just accept that as a new normal and not really quite register the severity of the threats. I think that's what happened to me. So in May 2021, I was undercover again in Portland, in downtown. This was a 1-year riot that was organized as an anniversary
So again,
event
this is again
for what had happened the year.
This is another, I was attacked by Antifa again. And again, he was attacked by Antifa, and that was wrong and bad and horrible. And I denounce all that bullshit, and I don't question this at all because I remember this happening at the time. It is now the end of 2025. It has been almost 5 years since this happened. That is the point. Andy does all these interviews where he rests on, I was almost killed by Antifa twice. And that's real, and that did happen. But at some point, you need to actually start doing real fucking journalism again, motherfucker. And when you are putting yourself in a position of being responsible for informing the public, you can't just make the public relive your trauma over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. What happened to Andy Ngo was wrong. But Andy Ngo's not the only person this has happened to. And the other people that this have happened to continue to go out there and do fucking journalism regardless. And if they don't do it, guess what? They retire from that and they go do something else. Andy is still pretending to be a journalist while lying to and misinforming the public to be a mouthpiece for the Trump administration and Harmeet fucking Dillon, who is his lawyer.
Year prior. And the group was smaller. And I made a mistake.
It's poor me details over and over and over
Even though
and
there was
over
probably
and
around
over
100
again.
people,
It's no real information.
That's small enough that the organizers within the group could keep an eye out on people who weren't rioting with them. You're there in Black Bloc, but you're not doing anything. Why? There was an Antifa member who had attacked me before, who identified me verbally to others there. So they went up and questioned me. At that point, I was just thinking, how do I get out of this? I was a block from the Central Police Station, but to walk in that direction, I would have had to walk through dozens of Antifa and Black Bloc, and a group of them had come up and asked me who I was. I started walking away. I heard one of them say, I think it's him. And those feelings that I was having, I had never had that type of feeling of dread before. And I was just wishing and praying in my head that law enforcement were nearby or undercover or around the corner. I'll see a police car, something. Please. And I kept walking and
we are now halfway through this interview. Has anyone learned anything new about Antifa halfway through this interview? One in the chat if you have learned anything new about Antifa halfway through this interview. 2 in the chat if you have learned no new information. Because it was my understanding, and again, I feel very sorry for all the trauma that Andy Ngo has experienced. That's real, and he should go to fucking therapy and deal with that shit. But Andy Ngo is putting himself in a position of being responsible for informing the public what is going on now. And halfway through this interview, we've gotten, I was attacked in 2020. I was attacked in 2021. I almost died. It was so horrendous for me. I had to leave the country. There is no new information about Antifa in this entire thing, at least so far. Maybe we'll get there. Hey, 2 ladies, here's so my support. Much respect. Thank you. Thank you. I do appreciate it.
it was dark. This was 10 p.m. on a Friday night. So the shadows are casted long from the light lamps. And I could see as I was walking away, trying to remain calm. I was still in black bloc, covered up, masked, my eyes were covered. I could see the shadows of the group behind me. They were pursuing me. Every business was basically closed. This was a year after the riots that ravaged downtown. I mean, that finished off any businesses that weren't finished off from COVID already. The hotel that was open that I went to, the front doors were locked. Vagrancy had become such a big problem at that point that the hotels in downtown didn't unlock their doors. So the person at the front desk didn't open it for me. And the group caught up, and in one swoop, one of them grabbed at my head and pulled off the sunglasses that I had, the ski goggles actually, and the balaclava, and I was completely exposed. And I took off running. And this video I have shared, it's compiled from multiple surveillance cameras in the city. And you can see me running for my life. I never ran that fast before. I didn't know I could run that fast. And I'm running through downtown, sprinting, screaming for help. And nobody helped. There were people walking around. This was a Friday night, 10 p.m. It's not that late. Cars were in the middle of the road. I ran in the middle of the cars in the streets at the red light, pounding on like windows and cars, asking for help. And when the light turned green, they drove off. And you can see in the video that the group caught up to me and they tackled me to the ground. In that, my weight plus the weight of the person.
And by the way,
just
I need to say this too, by the way, because this is all horrific and tragic, and I don't make any excuses for this. The people that you're seeing in this video, the Antifa that you're seeing in this video, they are not the same people who are at the ICE facility today. I cannot emphasize this enough. The people in the video, this is supposed to be about informing the public about Antifa today. The people in this video are not the same people at the ICE facility today. The people at the ICE facility are not good people for the most part, I don't think. They have no problem breaking your shit. They have no problem getting into a physical fight with you if they get the opportunity. But the people at the ICE facility, at least when I was there and on all the streams that we've watched, they are not as aggressive and as violent as the people were back then. And again, this is not to excuse any of it. None of them should be fucking around down at the ICE facility. They shouldn't be. Hang on. They absolutely shouldn't be attacking ICE. They shouldn't be doing any of this shit. But I got to talk to some of the people while I was down there. There's definitely mentally ill people down there. There's definitely people who have a chip on their shoulder. They are very angry. I saw just as much instigation in terms of like the actual physical fights. I saw just as much instigation coming from the MAGA people as I saw from Antifa. They weren't chasing anyone. They weren't going after anyone aggressively. The people they're going after aggressively are ICE. And I continue to wonder why they aren't arrested for that. But and by the way, I'm not the only one who thinks this. I talk to multiple streamers who are down there all the time that are basically like Antifa sending their C team. These people aren't even that dangerous. So.
And then as I tried to get up, some other person ran up in black bloc and just kept punching me until I fell to the ground. And then that person held me in a chokehold really hard. And
oh,
it
look,
was
a real
seconds in the video.
chokehold.
It felt much longer in my mind.
Not the fake chokehold
Maybe
they're
from
making a
lack
big
of
deal about
oxygen,
now.
I'm not sure. But that was my one near-death experience. And I was just thinking about,
Well, who's worse, Antifa or MAGA? I've never been physically assaulted by Antifa. I've been undercover with Antifa multiple times. I've never been physically assaulted by Antifa. I have been physically assaulted by MAGA. I've never been defamed by Antifa. I have been defamed by MAGA. I've never had Antifa try to destroy my life's work and my nonprofit. That has happened with MAGA. So for my money, right now, they're kind of on the same par. I don't like MAGA any more than I like Antifa, because MAGA has actively tried to fuck up my work. MAGA has actively lied about me on the internet. MAGA is trying to cancel my nonprofit. They're not going to be successful, but they're trying. MAGA has spread smear campaigns about me. MAGA has just been a monumental pain in my ass for years and years and years and years and years. So, toss a coin. I don't think either of them are good. I'm not on either of their teams.
My family.
Oh,
and those
hang on. We
acti-
got a Rumble rant from Effectual Insurrection over on Rumble. Respect for past work, but some people got to know when to switch it up or retire and do something different. For fuck's sake, thank you, Dr. Karlyn. Some people lack street smarts. That's my complaint, man. If you're going to put yourself, listen, if I am putting myself in a position of informing the public and making sure the public have good information, then I'm gonna fucking do that job. I'm not doing this to be famous on the fucking internet. I give two shits about being famous on the internet. I kind of wish less people knew who I was. It would actually make my life a whole lot easier. But Andy is putting himself in a position of being the opinion thought leader about Antifa. And all he's telling people is stuff that happened to him literally 5 or 6 years ago. It's all the same old trauma story over and over and over again. He's got to either shit or get off the pot. Start doing real journalism again, or shut the fuck up.
Read and loved. It was like flashing out, almost like almost how you would see it maybe in a film, like one person after another. And I was like, I'm so sorry that I let you down, that I go out.
And by the way, I always said this about James Lindsay, and I will say this about Andy Ngo as well. If Andy Ngo starts doing real journalism again and stops lying to the public and stops shilling a preconceived narrative that is not backed by the evidence, if he actually starts accurately informing the public about what's going on, I will be happy, and I will praise him for it, and I will shut the fuck up and stop going after him. That is the truth. My goal, my only goal, the goal forever, is to make sure the public has accurate information about what the left is saying and doing. Andy is currently lying to the public and manipulating them to shill a political narrative that works out well for him. So I don't like that. And if Andy wants to start being a real fucking journalist again, no one would be happier than me. I would love for Andy to use his massive fucking platform to do real journalism to accurately inform the public about what's going on. I think that's a really good idea. If he wants to start doing that again, I will stop going after him. I will sing his praises. I will tell people to start listening to him again. I will stop complaining about the constant whining and complaining about his trauma story on the internet. If he wants to do his fucking job for once, then no one will be happier than me. And that is the outcome that we should all hope for. But until Andy does that, I'm going to call him out on the same old sob story bullshit that we've been hearing for years and years and years and years and years, because it is getting old.
And I could hear like the rest of the Antifa mob catch up. They were running because I sprinted really fast, so they were catching up. I knew if I go unconscious and I'm unconscious on the ground there, that group will kill me. They were wanting my blood for months, from all the reporting I did in 2020, all the mugshots I released, all the names, all the charges. They wanted me dead. And before I passed out from being choked, some journalists ran up. They caught up with the group, and the person who was holding me in that chokehold, he held me so tight, by the way, that the blood vessels in my eyes burst.
So that's what an actual chokehold is like, MAGA retards. For everyone accusing Chandler of putting that blonde whore in a chokehold, when Andy Ngo got put in a chokehold by Antifa, blood vessels burst, and that's a fucking tragedy, and that was violent and horrific. But that is what an actual chokehold looks like. Andy No wasn't going up and running around buddy-buddy with Antifa after they put him in a chokehold like the blonde whore outside of the ICE facility was with Chandler's girlfriend. So if you want me to believe that that blonde girl got actually put into a chokehold, I want to see fucking bruises, I want to see a blood vessel burst, and I want to see charges that she has filed with the Portland police. And if you aren't going to show that, then shut the fuck up.
I was able to get out of that chokehold and I ran to the next thing I saw, which was the Nines Hotel. And the door I saw was open. So I just ran in and I was like a madman. Barely had my breath. I was just trying to say the words, call police, call police, call police. That's all I could say. And the staff inside the hotel tried to kick me out to the street. And when they said you have to get up, I said no. And I sat on the ground. The only way they were going to get me out was they would have had to carry me out. I was not going to go back out there because the mob now were amassing outside this hotel trying to get in. And the hotel staff refused to call police. And they said, you need to wear a mask. They actually pulled out from their drawer a black COVID mask and said, you need to put this down on.
Andy's about to cry.
So I'm bloody. I'm out of breath. I'm screaming, call police.
He's crying? Are you shitting me?
I was so lucky. I looked on my body. I had my phone still. I thought that it was...
Listen, the reason I'm bringing this up, Andy No has told this story about 8,000 fucking times. It's a sad story. It's a horrific trauma. He should really go to therapy to work it out. But the tears are not real. He is milking the fucking story that he has told repeatedly over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for the last 5 years. And yes, Andy is gay.
Fell out of my pocket when I was tackled on the ground. I still had it. So I used that to call 911. And the mob gathered outside the hotel, were pounding on the windows, trying to break in.
Yo! The Firebrand... Wait, what? The Firebrand Collective wrote an article about me? Are you serious? Where did the Firebrand Collective write an article about me? Can you link that shit? When did they write an article about me? This is amazing news. Go ahead and link that, average person. I'd love to see it. We still have 20 minutes of this interview left. I hope Andy actually gives us some information.
You see my face, Andy? Andy, you see my face? You see my fucking face? I fucking see now! Where is it? Yeah!
These aren't the same people outside the ICE facility.
If I didn't escape that area and they got in, they would have finished what they were trying to do. And so there was a hotel guest who was going up the elevator. He was like, I'm getting the hell out of here. There's like this mob outside. And I ran in after him. And I said, please let me go up with you. It was one of those hotel lifts where it requires a car to go up. So I couldn't just push numbers. He said, okay. I went up. And I hid in the hotel. And eventually, finally, a Portland police officer came up to me, escorted me out through this back entrance exit that staff used for the hotel. So the mob wasn't by there. There was an ambulance there. There was a police car by ambulance. And then the police escort behind took me to the hospital, the same hospital that I was treated 2 years earlier. And in there, I saw online, in real time, all the Antifa accounts because they were live streaming outside the hotel. One of the Antifa members, you could see in the video, Andy's in there at Nice Hotel right now. And she was threatening me. And so they knew I left in an ambulance and they were trying to find out which hospital. So I very narrowly escaped that.
Very sad story, Andy. What does that have to do with Antifa right now?
I went from safe house to safe house to safe house until I couldn't arrange where I would go next. And the death threats continued. Nobody was ever arrested over the assault I just described, or the 2019 one, or any of the death threats. And I couldn't stay in the U.S. anymore. I was on borrowed time.
No. This is where it gets off the rails. Andy, you were in danger in Portland. You could have moved to almost any other place in the US, maybe not Seattle, maybe not New York, Andy, you could have moved to Texas. You could have moved to Florida. You could have moved to Arizona. You probably could have moved to fucking Hawaii, bro. Like there are any number of states that Andy know. You could have moved to Utah. You could have moved to West Virginia. You could have moved to like almost any other state in the country and probably been fine. And again, I'm going to say this. I know for a fact, because I know people who knew Andy before all this happened. Andy wanted to move to London before all this. That is his prerogative. He's allowed to live wherever the fuck he wants. But let's not pretend that the reason that you moved to London is because you had to leave the country because you were in danger everywhere in the country. That's bullshit. You moved to London because you wanted to move to London. More power to you. But you're more in danger in London than you are in most states in the country.
You know, even when I traveled to other places, I had been recognized before by hostile people. So I couldn't live in hiding anymore, and it pained me a lot to leave the country that my parents found refuge in.
And the thing of it is,
very weird.
is Andy's going to say, I'm just too famous. Everyone knows who I am. The reality is, guys, the vast majority of people in the country don't actually know who Andy Ngo is. Just like you guys asked me, how can you still go undercover at leftist events? Because the vast majority of leftists, even though I do this public thing on YouTube, the vast majority of leftists have absolutely no clue who I am. The vast majority of leftists would not be able to pick me out of a crowd. They might know my name. They might know there's some weird fucking fascist woman that's going to their events. Maybe they've even seen a picture of me once or twice. But it's not like leftists spend all their time thinking about me. They don't. That's how I can still go undercover at leftist events, because the vast majority of leftists don't know who I am, just like the vast majority of people in the country don't know who Andy Ngo is. A very small subset of people in a very niche community know who he is.
It's all in my mind. And yeah, so I'm speaking to you now as somebody who's still essentially in exile for safety reasons. I had this opportunity to speak at the White House at a roundtable about my own experiences and what I've learned and some suggestions.
So we're still
I
getting
had from
no
the
information about
administration.
Antifa.
Never thought I'd see that day, because I remember for so long on this.
We have 15 minutes left of this interview. We've gotten, I was beat up by Antifa, and I was beat up by Antifa, and it was really sad, and it was really traumatic, and I had to move to London to escape Antifa, and then I got invited to the White House to talk about Antifa. We have had literally zero new information about Antifa, how they organize, how to effectively beat them, what the Trump administration needs to do. This is literally all just Andy Ngo's sob story again.
Antifa beat, it was like other journalists told me, mentors who I looked to, they said, you should pick a new beat. One, this is really violent. Two, Antifa, it's okay, it's a riot. Like, that happens, that shouldn't be your beat, you know? You should focus on something else. And I'm speaking to you in 2025, many years out from these early days of reporting that I did on Antifa, and you can see the glee that is shown whenever a target on the right suffers violence and or death. We've had 2 assassination attempts on then candidate Donald Trump, and people kind of just gloss over that the first assassination attempt resulted in somebody being shot in the head and dying in front of his family attending a political rally in the United States, and that 2 other people were critically injured. Like, people just brush over that. Oh, Trump survived it, let's move on. Somebody was murdered there, and 2 people are lucky to survive. 2025 has been particularly violent for the left, and it was cheered on completely. I mean, right now, people are focused on the attacks on ICE because that's directly in front of us. Just a few months ago, Tesla stores were being set on fire, were being shot up. Like, people have forgotten that. Particularly in Portland, there was the Tesla store in Portland 1 had been shot up several times. And to this day, I don't believe the Portland police have arrested a suspect in the Portland incident. A Tesla
Okay,
store
Tesla protests.
in
We've covered
Salem,
that many times,
Oregon
Andy. That's not breaking news.
was fired upon and set on fire. The suspect apprehended in that, and I was first to report this because the legacy media would not. That suspect's transgender.
Do you have any idea how many stories I reported before Andy No? Andy No wants to be like, I'm the only one doing this, and then the mainstream media never reports it. Do you guys have any fucking idea how many stories I reported before Andy No that Andy No then reports either days, weeks, or months after I report them, or he doesn't cover them at all? We're gonna be really making sure people understand this, by the way. Every time Andy No puts out a story that I reported days, weeks, or months before him, I want everyone in Andy's replies linking to my reporting on it, because this literally happens all the time. And by the way, when Andy No takes stuff that other people report and he reports on it, he doesn't actually retweet you directly. He takes your story and he writes a whole tweet about it, and he might reference you and he might not. And by the way, again, I'm not the only one this has happened to. This has happened to many other independent journalists who report on issues, and then Andy fucking skates in and takes their story from them, doesn't retweet them because he doesn't want anyone to know who these people are, and then he says, I reported it before the media. Well, guess what, Andy? There were other independent journalists who reported it before you that you refused to give credit to.
And was part of this radical trans militia type of group. The left is becoming so radicalized, and they're supported by such large mainstream institutions and cultures that people have really normalized that violence and they're okay with it. And that was really the thesis of my book that came out now 4 years ago, Unmasked. That this violence
this is another question. This is another question. If Andy is truly so afraid for his life, then why does he keep going on TV? Again, Andy is not on the streets doing any real journalism in this area. Everyone else is doing the journalism, and then Andy's going based on top of it. So if Andy really if Andy is no longer passionate about reporting on the far left, he should go do something else. Go pick a different topic. Go write a book about a different fucking topic. Go write about the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is never going to attack you. Go write about the progressives. The progressives are never going to fucking attack you. If he was truly in fear of his life, he would just go do something else. He's not showing any passion for this topic. Listening to him is boring as shit. So he's obviously the way I am actually obsessed with the far left. The reason I do this and I don't do anything else is I am actually obsessed with the far left. Like in real life, I find it fascinating. I think it's a dystopian hellscape that's happening around us right now. When I talk about the far left and I teach people information about the far left, I think people can hear through my voice that this is actually something I care about. Andy doesn't even give a fuck about this. So why is he still reporting on it? He could just go do something else.
And it's going to have deadly consequences.
So tell me about this, okay? How is it that it's being normalized? You know, you're talking about the media being involved, but legacy media, but there's more to it than that. What is it that people are trying to wash their hands of? What is that whole thing?
You can see some prominent examples of how it's been normalized in mainstream for several years now, but I'll name some clear examples. After the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO, that act of murder was celebrated by the left.
True.
Widely celebrated. And individuals online then began dispersing wanted style flyers of other CEOs. And when a suspect was apprehended, Luigi Mangione, he's been made into a hero, a celebrity.
This
At
is
all
as
his court
generic
hearings
reporting as you
in
can
New York
possibly
City,
get.
people show up to cheer him on outside the courthouse. When recently the terrorism charges were dismissed at the state level, people had a dance party outside. That really reminded me of something that I remember in 2020 in Portland.
Yeah, Andy
As the
thinks he's
riots
in
went
London
on
beyond the reach of
by
Antifa.
the middle of
Yeah,
August,
exactly. What a joke.
a Trump supporter named Aaron Danielson was assassinated in downtown Portland.
Oh, and now we're back to 2020 again. Did anyone notice that? Andy has nothing that he himself has done that is relevant to the Luigi Mangione stuff. By the way, did you guys know that all over the city of Seattle, there are basically like posters and graffitis about Luigi? Like the far left in Seattle is really actually celebrating him. Does Andy show anyone that information? No, because he doesn't fucking know about it. Andy has now exhausted the amount of information that he knows about Luigi Mangione because he's not actually doing any reporting. He's just repeating what he's heard on social media. And now Andy has to pivot and he has to go, do you remember this thing that happened in 2020? Because that's all Andy knows. That is the last time he was an actual fucking reporter. Listen to the pivot.
Remember in 2020 in Portland, as the riots went on by the middle of August, a Trump supporter named Aaron Danielson was assassinated in downtown Portland by a man named Michael Rhino. And he had a manifesto that was posted on Instagram, the gunman. And in it, this was the quote that was in it, "I am 100% Antifa." And Michael acted as this volunteer armed security for the rioters in downtown. He fled out of state after murdering Aaron Danielson. Remember that night that Mr. Danielson was killed and his body laid in the street about a couple streets away in front of the Justice Center, which is really the gathering area for the rioters every night. It was announced on a bullhorn. The victim was described as trash being taken out and a Nazi. And then they cheered and they held a dance party. There was no condemnation of that at all by anybody in Portland, of that cruel act of celebrating a really senseless murder in downtown. And Aaron Danielson was just a private individual. He wasn't a big time activist or anything. So his death was really quite overlooked for all these years. But he is just one victim of many of far left extremists.
True. Just one of many, Andy.
In the aftermath of
One of many.
Mr. Cook's assassination, that same type of celebration broke out on not just the radical left. You expect that of them. The far left, you expect they're extreme, they're radicalized. But on the mainstream left, those who said Mr. Kirk was a fascist, that he expressed hatred, and that it's good that he died, and it'll be good if others like him were no longer around.
Okay, and now we have the breaking news that leftists celebrated when Charlie Kirk died. True. Yeah, that's true. Of course that's true. And it's horrible, and it's vile, and it's reprehensible. But this is not giving us any new information about Antifa. This is literally just repeating stuff that went viral on Twitter, which is all Andy actually does.
A couple of things I want to pick up
Less
on.
than 10 minutes left. Maybe
One
we'll get
is
some new info soon.
dehumanizing rhetoric. And I think what I'm getting from you here is that people are involved in creating this, and there's some complicity there, even if they're not involved in the violence itself. And that's what people might be washing their hands of. Do I understand that right?
Yes. And my point in bringing that up is I'm not calling for guilt by association criminally. I just mean that what do you think happens when day in and day out you participate in a culture where your political targets are labeled as genociders, as fascists, as Nazis, as racists, white supremacists?
Oh, and now we're back to the White House talking points, guys. We made it. Andy is ending the interview with the White House talking points, the points that Harmeet Dillon and Pam Bondi and Donald Trump want him to say, which are exactly the same talking points that were advanced at the Antifa meeting, which is, It's really the Democrats' media fault. It is the Democratic media that paints everyone as a racist, white supremacist, Nazi. And isn't it we just can't expect anything different when the Democrat media and the Democrat politicians paint everyone as a white supremacist Nazi. And now we are back to Andy going into full-on White House narrative shill mode because that is all he does. By the way, everyone knows that Antifa hates the Democrats, right? Everyone knows that Antifa does not listen to Democrat media. Everyone knows that Antifa would attack the Democrats just as quickly as they would attack Andy No. And like Antifa denounces the Democrats and liberals and progressives all the fucking time. They don't want anything to do with them. You heard that from Chandler on my channel last week when I interviewed Chandler. Chandler said the Democrats and the Republicans are both fucking evil. But no, guys, the reason that Antifa is attacking people is because the Democrat media tells everyone that they're racist white supremacists. Except that Antifa hates the Democrats and Antifa doesn't watch Democrat media. Brilliant, Andy. Great shilling for the White House.
That need to be killed. Do you think when you normalize those type of lies against your political target that you just say it and it just disappears, it just goes away? Like, people take that in. And in a country where access to firearms and deadly weapons are so easy, it doesn't take very much for an individual to take direct action. There was a shooting on another ICE facility in the state of Texas, in Dallas.
And that guy was Antifa.
And the gunman in that case
True.
wrote an anti-ICE message on a rifle cartridge, had a note allegedly illuminating his anti-ICE views from a left-wing perspective, killed one person who was actually a detainee migrant, and injured two others detainee migrants.
Also reported on Twitter, Andy.
He was trying to kill ICE agents.
No new information.
The second thing is it your contention that all of these, the attacks on ICE, the burning of the courthouse in Portland, the San Diego situation, that all of these are somehow connected, somehow coordinated even? Because some of the coordination, at least in each individual instance.
I'm going to give you the real answer to what Jan Jekielek is saying. And again, I like Jan. I really do. I've been on his show twice. He's always been very nice to me. So I have no beef with him personally. Jan Jekielek is saying, Andy, are you making the argument that all of these different attacks are coordinated? Andy is going to say that they are because he's shilling a White House narrative. But I'm going to tell you what's actually going on. These are all different individual Antifa cells. Antifa is a highly decentralized organization with thousands of cells all over the country. Do those cells coordinate with each other? Not in the way that you might think. They coordinate through things like anarchist websites, the Anarchist Library, Crime Think, Anarchist News, in that they all put out, these websites will put out different strategies, different talking points, different zines, different manifestos, things like that. But the individual Antifa cells are not necessarily calling each other on the phone or even in these signal groups all talking to each other. They're all doing their own thing. They're all doing it in a decentralized manner, but they're not necessarily like the Antifa cell in Texas isn't necessarily communicating with the Antifa cell in Portland, isn't necessarily communicating with the Antifa cell in Los Angeles or whatever. So these websites post talking points, they post manifestos, they post communiques, they post after action reports. That gets transmitted down into the different communities, and sometimes they use them and sometimes they don't. But the reason that all of these groups seem to be acting in the same way is they're all reading the same websites. They're all reading the same zines. They're all reading the same propaganda. Again, this is why I go to the anarchist book fairs, because when you go to the anarchist book fairs, you see what zines they're reading. You see what zines are propagating in the system. That way you know how to identify what ideas are top of mind for these people. So it's not necessarily that they're talking to each other. It's that they're all reading the same information that is coming out of these like places that are basically putting it out there into the ether. Hope that makes sense to everyone. Let's see what Andy said.
Seem to be quite advanced, I would say, right? But I think you're suggesting there's something bigger happening.
It's more so ideological cross-pollination, which is actually very important to the agendas and goals of the violent militant left. They all share a common enemy. It's
Capitalism.
people like you and I. It's
No.
people who believe in
Capitalism.
the institutions of America. who believe in the
Capitalism. Say
idea of
capitalism, you
America and
gay
our
motherfucker.
Constitution. They want to see it destroyed. They would like to see themselves put in power, and how they envision society next is different. But they're not too concerned with getting to that point yet. It's much easier to destroy and attack now. The far left in Antifa is unique in a way in that Antifa encouraged their supporters to get arrested, to be violent, get arrested,
True.
get it captured on camera. One, for propaganda purposes, but two, to get individuals to become party to lawsuits, lawfare against police departments and cities. And in liberal jurisdictions, the Democrat-run
Liberal.
city council will vote.
It's all
to
the
settle.
Democrats, guys.
Settle,
It's all
settle.
the Democrats.
1 million, no problem. 10 million, no problem. 20 million,
This
no
is the
problem.
White House narrative.
Cities across America have settled. So those who were arrested for rioting get rewarded with money. So the funding comes from all these places. And there's also an international element as well, which
you
I've
gonna
been
mention
discussing a
mutual
lot
aid?
In the Capitol here. The International Antifa Defense Fund, which takes money from donors all over the world
Mm.
to provide cash support to Antifa militants
So no mutual aid, huh?
internationally. So it's
And now we've reached the Soros portion of the presentation, where Andy is going to argue that Antifa is secretly funded through all of these big trans international groups, but he's not mentioning mutual aid at all, which is how Antifa is primarily funded.
it's not all clandestine. That's my point. You can see the Cash App accounts, the Venmo accounts. You don't obviously see who's donating. They're all
The Cash
choosing to
App
hide
and the Venmo
their
account.
donation. But how it's being done is in the open, or through
So you're
these
saying
nonprofits
mutual
that
aid.
get money. You can pull up their tax funds. You can see where they get the money. A lot of it's from the state, Oregon, Washington. It's run completely by Democrats. They can decide how to disperse grant money, and they give it to people on the radical left quite often.
No, Andy, wrong.
Tell me this, okay?
Good luck proving that, Andy. We'll,
How
we'll
does
wait
it
for your
feel
receipts. We'll wait for
to
your
be
documentation.
sitting at the round table in front of the president of the United States?
And now we're going back into Andy's feelings. Jan, come on. Jan, okay, I actually do like him again. He hasn't asked Andy any hard questions. Now we're ending the interview with Andy. How did it feel to be at the White House?
Telling your story, having the Attorney General of
Soros
the
is
United
using
States
Cash
saying
App,
they're
guys.
going to
Yeah,
take
exactly.
apart this,
Soros is
I
funding
don't know if
Antifa.
organization or
Cash App and Venmo.
decentralized grouping of cells or however you would describe it.
It was very hard to believe, and I was overwhelmed with feelings of gratitude.
I was overwhelmed
Myself
with
and others
feelings
have
of gratitude.
suffered a lot for reporting on this
I have
beat,
suffered a lot,
and for a long
I was
time it
almost
fell on
killed.
deaf ears.
And it was incredible that I went
We
to
finally
the
have
White
an
House.
administration that, as busy as it is, dealing with things domestically, internationally, found time to get us together, to invite me along, to share what I know.
Which is nothing, apparently.
It's going to be really hard for them to dismantle these networks.
Yeah, because none of you
Legally,
understand how it works.
criminally, and on the PR front as well. Immediately when Trump had signaled a few weeks ago that he was going to designate Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, the media machine fell into what you would expect, which is to deny that Antifa is organized, deny that Antifa exists, and to blame the victims of their violence for what happened to them.
Hey, welcome, Lucid. We know it's
It's
a
their
big lift when
playbook.
you first joined. Glad you're here.
I want to say it's disgusting, but I've almost kind of moved on from that view. It's more so,
Oh,
it's
we
a
know, Andy.
depravity that I don't want to think about anymore.
We know you've moved on. We're very
It's to be
aware.
expected, and I hope my reporting and my suggestions can give investigators some potential ideas for tools for what they can use to dismantle these networks, because they're going to go underground. We're seeing a bit of it. Some of the Antifa accounts have began deleting their social media presence. The International Antifa Defense Fund announced that it was shutting down and relocating its operations to another country. Some individuals have left the US.
Why don't you cover them since you're in Europe, Andy? Why don't you do journalism and go
Antifa's-
cover them?
They're going to try to lay low, depend on the media to run cover for them, in hope that they get a Democrat in office again.
If
Oh
there
yeah, they're
was
praying for
one or a couple.
guys. Antifa is praying for a Democrat president. That's the big punchline. They're praying for a Democrat president.
Things
Sure, Andy.
that you
Yeah.
would want the average American to know about Antifa that they probably have no idea about right now.
Yeah, what do you want them to
What would
know,
that
Andy?
be?
Great question, Jan.
I think the question that an average American, and I'm speaking to, let's say, maybe a normie, someone not politically plugged in, or they're liberal, the question you should ask yourself is, when these people claim to be anti-fascist, the follow-up question should be, and in furtherance of what? If you take them at face value, then you have to ask them, you're against this, but what are you for? And what Antifa is for is violence, destruction,
Communism.
murder,
Communism.
and abolishment of the
Communism.
liberal democratic order.
Oh my God. He
So it's
can't
quite-
even, Andy fucking no, can't even say that Antifa are communists. The biggest thing that Andy wants people to know is, what does it mean to be an anti-fascist? And he can't even fucking say they're communists. They want to overthrow the government. The goal of Antifa is to overthrow the government and abolish the Constitution because they are communists. Why is this so difficult? Andy No has been covering Antifa longer than I've been covering Antifa. And yet if someone said to me, Karlyn, what do you want people to know about Antifa? I would say, as I did when I was on Fox News, Antifa are communists who want to overthrow the government. It's really not that hard, Andy. You've been doing this a long ass time, bro. You are very practiced. You've done way more interviews than I have. That should have been the easiest thing you've ever said in your fucking life. This might be a dumb question, but are communists and do our communists and anarchists file taxes? Actually, it's not a dumb question at all. I think that some do and some don't. Some communists and anarchists work completely outside of the capitalist system. And so for the ones that work completely outside of the capitalist system, I would be surprised if they filed taxes. I think that you got to understand, though, that there are members of Antifa that have normal jobs. There are members of Antifa that are teachers, that are lawyers, that are retail workers, that work as baristas at Starbucks, that work as Amazon people. Like they have normal jobs. And so if you have a normal job, your information is going to be reported to the government. And so I would assume that they are paying taxes because they're going to get in trouble if they don't. But if they're working outside the capitalist system, then I would be surprised if they do. But that's not a dumb question at all. That's actually a rather interesting question.
Actually ironic in many ways that Antifa act as shock troops for people who claim to care about those institutions and values and concepts. I would just ask people to, you don't have to listen to my own words, but perhaps watch some of the videos of some of these violence, and you can see how organized it is.
Yes. Perhaps we should watch Primaries versus
that,
Andy.
and then
Great
ask
suggestion.
yourself,
Excellent
what is that in
suggestion,
furtherance
Andy.
of?
Well, Andy, no, it's such a pleasure to have had you on again.
My pleasure.
All right. So, guys, that is Andy Knows breaking down what's next for Antifa and the DOJ strategy. That's it. That is the preeminent expert on Antifa. Press 1 in the chat if you learned something new in the course of that interview about Antifa. Press 2 in the chat if you did not learn something new in that interview about Antifa. If you learned something new, hey, that's always a good thing. We want people to be learning new things. We want people to be learning about Antifa. Press 1 in the chat if you learned something new about Antifa. Press 2 in the chat if you did not learn something new about Antifa. That's an awful lot of 2s. That's an awful lot of twos, Andy. That's an awful lot of twos. Guys, this is the best that the right wing has to offer. This is the right wing's preeminent expert on Antifa, and he's not teaching anyone in this YouTube chat anything new because my audience knows more about the far left than Andy does. There is not, I really want people to think about this. If you have been watching my content for any length of time, if you've been watching my content for 3 months or more, if you've taken my online classes that you can find over on my Substack, if you've been paying attention to the things that I put out on Twitter, if you've been looking at the primary source evidence, you probably know more about Antifa than Andy No does right now. And again, I'll say this again. I have a great deal of respect for anyone who does on-the-ground journalism. Andy in the past has done on-the-ground journalism. Andy did write what is a fairly good book about Antifa. I'm not going to shit-talk any of that. That was all a long-ass time ago. For the past 4 to 5 years, Andy No has been resting on his laurels, living in London, doing Twitter journalism where he doesn't actually do anything in person, and he just rides on the back of other independent journalists that are out there, and then he has the gall to steal from people and to smear people that don't go along with his fucking bullshit narrative. He can kiss my copious fucking ass. I am not hiding this anymore. I have an absolute disdain for people who claim to be informing the public, but then do no actual work to actually inform the public about what's going on. And I don't think unlike Andy wants to make shit up about me and wants to spread lies about me. I don't need to make shit up. All I need to do is to play Andy's own words on my stream to my audience, who are the smartest people on the fucking internet when it comes to the far left. And everyone knows that Andy's full of shit, that he hasn't done any real journalism in years, that he hasn't taught us anything that we don't already know, that he's not putting any new information out into the ecosystem at all because he doesn't know it, because he's only reporting on things that he sees go viral on Twitter, because that is his priority right now. And he's actively misinforming the public. He's actively ignoring evidence that exists in the real world that contradict his narrative because he is shilling the White House talking points because he is friends with Harmeet Dillon and he wants to be invited back to the White House so he can be the Antifa star of the right. And in the meantime, no one knows nothing new they didn't know before, and the White House still has no fucking clue on how to deal with this problem. Because of people like Andy No, putting himself in the position that he's put himself. The White House has no fuck-off clue about how to deal with this problem, which is why there's been no arrests of Antifa. Do you guys see how all this works together? When the White House doesn't know what the fuck is going on, it's because they're listening to people who don't know what the fuck is going on. And that's why Antifa is still out there doing everything they've been doing and no one's getting arrested and nothing is happening. And oh, by the way, do you guys remember how many people attacked me when I came out and said, Trump can't really declare Antifa a terrorist organization because he doesn't even know what the names of the organization is? I got so many comments from people saying, ha ha, you were wrong, Trump did it. Has that domestic terrorist order actually resulted in anything? Has the Trump administration done anything since they declared Antifa a terrorist organization? Oh, it's almost like I was right the first time. And anyone who actually listened to the reasoning and the logic behind why I said what I said knew I was right the fucking first time. So, guys, if you want real information about what the far left is doing, you can join me tonight for Spy Stream, because we do have to wrap this stream up, because unlike Andy No, I have real fucking journalism to do. And when I do real journalism on the internet, I take all of you along with me. You guys can all come and watch journalism be done in real time. We are doing a Spy Stream starting in about 5 minutes. I'm going to take you inside a live leftist training, and we're going to show you what's what. This is a supporter exclusive. If you are a supporter on my main Substack, which is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, or you are a member of Locals, Patreon, a Twitter subscriber, or a YouTube channel member, you get access to Spy Stream. Please refer to whatever platform you're a supporter on. I will put the Substack link in the chat. And there's still plenty of time to sign up if you have not yet signed up to come and join us yet. If you're a YouTube channel member, you can find the post in the community tab. And we are going inside a live leftist training in about 5 minutes to see what they're actually saying and doing in the real world. Then there will be movie night tonight in my supporter Discord. MacB is going to be showing War Games. That will start around 9 p.m. or after the spy stream is over, which should be around 9 p.m. But, you know, sometimes they run a little late, so we're going to have to see. With that, guys, I have to wrap up the stream for right now. I got to get ready for spy stream. I will see you guys on the other side. And I've got Triple B Collective coming on the channel tomorrow. So maybe we will actually learn something about Antifa tomorrow. We're having a former member of Antifa on the channel tomorrow, and it's going to be rad. All right, guys, I will...
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.